Well, finally got some time to get back to work on the XR100. Putting the motor back in the frame today. And basically, all you do is lift up the motor, and what I found was easiest was to get this bolt in on the bottom here first. So I just kind of jiggle it up into position, get that bolt in, put the washer and the nut on loosely on the other side. I'm not going to tighten it down just yet because I want to be able to wiggle it around so I can get the other mounting bolts in. And then of course it doesn't want to fall out because the cylinder head, or the cylinder head actually hits the frame right here. So now with that back one in, I can lift the front up and it'll pivot, and I can reattach this bracket assembly on the front here. Well, this is interesting. I'm missing a bolt here. I wonder if I was missing a bolt when I got this bike, and I just forgot about that. I'm going to have to review my old videos to see, because I honestly don't remember, and I'm missing a bolt, and I was pretty good about keeping the hardware together. This bolt I had kept with the bracket in this position. These two bolts, along with the majority of the hardware when I was taking the bike apart, taking the motor out, I kept in this can. So these two little bolts in this is all for the sprocket. These two nuts right here, I think these two washers, actually these two nuts right here are for the exhaust. I think these two washers go with these bolts here. These little bolts here are all for like the fender hardware and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure. What's that big sucker there? Alright, don't know where that one goes yet, but actually that might be for the exhaust pipe bracket. I don't know. Don't worry about that in a minute. But I'm missing a long through bolt right here. So I've got the one in the back installed. It was too long, so I didn't have it in that little container. I had it on the workbench top along with this other really long one, which I know is the top one here because it's got this weird spacer deal that actually sits in this plastic thing here. So I know that one goes in there like that. So I guess I'll install that one. So you take this spacer off the bolt, you stick the spacer in here in this plastic clip, then you insert the long bolt from this side, and then before you push it all the way through, this space right here is actually where the clutch cable bracket actually sits. So that is, where is it? Hello? No, I just saw that sucker a second ago. Oh, there it is. Okay, so feed your clutch cable up this way. I gotta use both hands here to get it. Alright, so the clutch cable basically bracket is gonna sneak down there between the back of the frame and the front of the motor mount, and then get the bolt to come through. Alright, I found it's a lot easier to put the clutch cable on before you mount the bracket. So now, got that in there. I can put the nut on, and I can go in search of the mystery of the missing bolt. And let's see, check that clutch lever. Working like it should. Good. Might have to adjust that after, but we'll worry about that later. Well, since it's sitting right here in front of my face, I think I'll put the throttle back in, and needle. And that should have a slot that engages down there. Yep. Got to finagle the cable a little bit. So when you're installing that, there's a slit on one side, and then there's a wide slot on this side that actually has almost like a ramp shape to it, and this is your idle adjustment screw. And all this does is, as you turn this screw in, it pushes on that ramp and causes that sleeve to move up slightly or down slightly depending on which way you turn the screw. So you'll know you have it in because it'll drop down further when you've got it in correctly so that you can screw this cap on. And then of course you want to give it a test. It should spring back. You can actually hear it springing back, so that's good. The fuel line sits here, and that's going to go up here to the tank once we install the tank. Fuel shutoff must be on this side. It's funny, I thought it was on the other side. It's on the other side on the CRFs, on the 50 and the 70. I'll have to check that. Now I'm going to install the crankcase breather hose, which hooks onto this nipple right here, and then it has a little spring clip right there to keep it in place, and then it just kind of snakes down here. Let's see, looks like that's gonna go behind the swing arm and then down and come out at the bottom there. Now it's time to route the wires from the magneto and pickup coil. Got a clip right here on the frame that this cable is going to go behind, and it comes up here and it goes underneath this clip here, and we get two quick disconnects right here, and then this slides over it to protect it. Alright, so I've got my wire clamped down correctly. Now I've got this vent tube coming off the carburetor that kind of just wants to go straight up in the air. It's split at the end too, it's kind of weird. Anyways, not quite sure where that goes. I'm wondering if that just kind of sits up underneath the dead space under the tank. Not sure. I'm gonna have to look at the video and see if I can see where that was. And then also got a clamp. Got this big rubber clamp doohickey here. This sucker right here. I remember that this clamped these cables into position here on the frame, which I can actually see looks like a ghost right here of the position that was in. Looks like it was right here, so that's probably gonna hold these wires and cables up off of the top of the valve cover, I guess. A check of the video kind of solves the mystery of this missing bolt. This bolt goes through the front mount of the skid plate, and I had taken the skid plate off long before I even started to take the motor out. So this bolt was removed much earlier in the process of disassembly. So it's probably somewhere with the skid plate, which I'll dig that out when I get to that point. I also was able to check on this position of this rubber thing, and it does go right where I thought, which is right where this ghost is right here. Interestingly enough, it does. I did notice that in the video that when I was unclipping it, that the stick rubber part goes on top, and this strap actually goes around this wire to keep this wire up, but it does not go around this cable right here. So I'm going to make sure I put this back on the same way. Okay, I found that bolt for the skid plate. I'm going to temporarily install it just to keep everything aligned while I tighten and torque down all the other bolts. Yeah, getting the alignment just right to get all of these in can be a bear. I ended up I couldn't get this one in, so I ended up taking these two out. Then I could get this one in, and I could pull up and put a large screwdriver in here and wiggle this bracket enough so I could get these back in. So definitely don't want to tighten all of these up without having this one in to start with, or else you'll never get this all aligned. These front hanger bolts are torqued to 25 foot-pounds. Okay, these nuts on the front here are self-locking nuts. They've got that bushing in them that keep them tight. But the rear hanger nuts, just regular nuts and bolts. So these need Loctite on the threads, and these get tightened to 25 foot-pounds for 98 to 2000, and above 2,000 they're tight to 33 foot-pounds. So I want to put some Loctite on those threads before I put the nut back on and tighten it. The same goes for this bottom rear one also. That's also going to need Loctite.